trying to get everyone low. It's not gonna happen like that.
Trying to be greedy.
You're getting the chest piece in the mid.
We might get some more viewers. You never know. Let's read my part.
But remember, country and western came from black people anyway, so it's
Like
just
Lil
that.
Nas X did that.
This Old Town Road.
Yeah.
That was the best street.
But do you know there are so many black country and western artists out there, and they are
The
really
South.
good.
Anywhere, country western comes from the South. Anywhere in the South in the world, you're gonna find black people. I don't know what it is about the South.
That's so South.
South, what do it?
So,
Some of us end up in the West.
so
you're South London?
I'm originally North, but I emigrated to East.
You're East. No, you're South London.
I'm South. I brought. Alright.
You emigrated to South.
Alright. So my father's a
You're a
Brixtonite.
migrant, you're a
My father is a
migrant.
Brixtonite. My mum is from Bolton. She moved to East. So I grew up in East, but I've grown up back and forth. So I kind of just in a tug of war.
Okay.
Like my sister and my missus are like, listen, you're from South.
Now, so you're East,
I
right?
went to school in East, so
Well, you're
I was
East.
but
We're taking you.
The man them's from East. You the man them that know are from East.
yeah, the whole of London is in my back pocket. Come on.
Yeah, I've been in the West most of the time. I was briefly in Stoke Newton for like 3 years back in the 80s.
I've been there too.
I was up there yesterday, well, up by more towards Stamford Hill.
Don't think it's changed, though.
Yes.
It's like a different world.
But Dalston's still a little bit more
Yeah.
real. Because one of my adopted daughters, she's like your age group, and she's in London Fields. Now, when she was 17 and stuff, when I met her when she was in Hackney, in those days, there is no way you would have found all these nice street white people sitting in London Fields drinking Prosecco with, barbecuing and stuff.
£7
London
coffees.
Fields
£7
was like-
coffees with cinnamon sprinkled on the
London
top.
Fields was like road. It's completely different now. Every time I go there, I'm like, wow.
Don't you find it a little bit gentrified?
When you go there, you're safe.
With a giant G.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're safe because you're not going to get robbed on the street.
No.
You go into a coffee shop and get robbed
Yeah,
there.
robbed there.
You hand over your back corner, like, alright, cool. Different kind of robbery.
Different kind of robbery. That was not robbery, of course. That was freeness. Beautiful, beautiful track by our beautiful Queen Sharon. So, it's now, 6 minutes past 5. We got more tracks coming. We got a studio full of some fantastic artists. Do you all want to shout out? Just say hello to the listeners.
Wagwan people them. Wagwan.
Thanks for tuning in.
Okay, so let's move it back the other way. So, Alex, I've got some more. Actually, I think we're supposed to have more of your tracks, but I've got 2 more here, and I can always, like I say, we can always Bluetooth you in, or I can grab some more, as I've just done with Rima X. Rima Echo. You Rima Echo 3 times now.
That's the Nation of Islam Rima. Rima X. When you get militant. Yeah.
We're changing your
That
name.
might be the new album.
When you get militant. Yeah.
Yeah.
With the glasses and the suit and tie.
Mad Echo, Mad X.
Mind over matter, please, and then I'll probably later on give you something from the key.
Nice. Tell us a little bit about Mind Over Matter.
Okay, mind over matter is about thinking before anything, and like sometimes we go through a lot of different stuff and stress or whatever, and it's just about thinking before you do something. Sometimes we're quickly to this world that we live in is sort of like we're always rushing, and we don't have time to think. And then sometimes a lot of time we make bad decisions and stuff like that. So it's about thinking before we do something and putting the mind over the matter and trying to do it the right way, whatever the right way is. That's my interpretation of it. You know.
I'm sure you're right.
Think first. I love that.
Let's enjoy it, people. Let's enjoy it. Mind Over Matter.
La 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 la.
Oh, you knew it.
I know all these tunes, man.
Definitely got to save this side.
Reminds me of the 80s when I heard this stuff. Standing in the dance. East Acton.
I already know I'm going to do a track with you.
I was living in
I'm
West
going to be
London.
the backman
But this was the energy of the mixture of the things that are about. You see that these are like 90s R&B and soul, this one is like that. That's all where it all meets in the middle. You know what I mean?
Let's go with that. Love the mix. Alright, definitely, we're gonna make it happen.
So you know.
And you see what I'm saying about my mission? Just create these spaces so it can organically. Sometimes if I drag them to the water, they're not fresh. But if you just create a little gathering and you provide some water and some snacks, they'll eat in their time.
I love it. That's what I'm trying to do my new way with get the people out there.
This is what I get from you lot, from that generation when I used to go, whether it be Bingley or whether it be Community Centre or whether it be over, what's that one over at yeah, or different spaces like that, London space I grow up in. So it's just making sure that these spaces continue.
Yeah, because we're losing all our spaces, that's another thing. So hard to get the space down.
We found space where, like here, do you know what I mean? Like, we might not have the government support or whatever, but when we link up at a bus stop.
But actually, you know what? It's often better not to have one.
Because then they tell you what you can and can't do. Yeah, and then they sell it on at a price when you were doing it for the people. So it's just organic, and by the time I had it in my mind of trying to climb a ladder, forget a ladder, it's the ground, grassroots. Grass is right there.
Always. But the solid, doesn't matter, you never get up there, down there, it's not sorted. Solid foundation.
Hey.
It's not the clean version. Only a little bit swearing, yeah? It's not swearing now in songs, but you know. Yeah,
That's an interesting one, actually. Maybe I should ask about the like calling women B words and H words and shit like that. It's like, so I know N word is always like a no-no, but is it in a maybe we like.
What are the boundaries? What are the limits?
Yeah, what are the limits? But at the same time, you don't want censorship. Like, you can't talk.
how would you feel?
The only thing I just keep the N word out of it, but I don't know. I never think about like if I hear bitch, it never bothers me or hoe. But then some women are like, no.
But maybe that's because no one ain't talking to you.
That one right there, yeah.
Just keep on stepping. I don't know. You saying that to me? No. Yeah. It'd be a bad person to say that to me. Oh. Yes, that vibes.
Yeah, check your catalogue, man. I like
Kind of
what
80s vibes, isn't it? Yeah. I like it.
Real dancehall.
Like it. So yes, that was Mind Over Matter. Look, before we play a track by Rima Echo, also known as Rima X, possibly eclectic Rima. I just dropped something while we were talking, while the track was playing, which is as anyone who knows, who listens to the station knows that I'm kind of like, I don't play anything with the N-word. Sometimes it's quite difficult because, you know, coming back to 80s babies, coming back to 80s music, you know, I love Wu-Tang. I love...
Yeah, me too.
Me too.
Oh, God.
I love, some of the music that I actually adore and I grew up on, it's got all the N-word. But as I've evolved, as I got older and I'm kind of like, you know, getting to the stage where I might be a grandmother at some point, you know, I've kind of signed up to this idea of no N-word. But there's other words that people object to. And as I've got a studio full of women, of queens, goddesses here, empresses, bitch, hoe, what do we think about that? Is that a word that we should also think about? Like, you know, moving out of our music, or is it just that the fact we do need to free up and just express ourselves? I'm throwing it out there.
My opinion of it is freedom of speech. So, I mean, you know, if every song's about that, start to make me think about something else. But,
Put your mind over matter.
Something now and again.
but music and is energy, so that it flows and there's different. There's more than one. There's negative, there's positive, there's all different sides. So we can't just stick to one thing because life's not like that.
And some days, you might feel like that person was a bit strong.
That's what I'm saying. Sometimes
Yeah.
Exactly.
Like sometimes you have to name it.
Yes.
Call out the devil,
For me, it's like I have in none of my songs apart from Gucci, which has a naughty version and a clean version. I call it the Disney version and the over 18 version.
Playboy, yeah.
Is the first song that I've written where I have done the N-word. But
Context. Give us some context.
But saying that, when I wrote it, it was about my guy and saying he's the type of guy that does A, B, C, D, E, F, G. It wasn't in a oh, that did kind of thing in a negative way. It was bigging up. Yeah, I could have said the type of king, but sometimes you want to be like, hey, he's mad. You know what I'm saying? It depends on the context of how you're feeling, what you're seeing. We are writers, we are creatives. We tell stories, and sometimes stories are not clean. Sometimes stories are not PG. Sometimes you want to tell somebody you are an N, and you better snap them up. You get what I'm saying? So
That's interesting because my youngest, who's 28, she totally does not agree with me. She's like, she uses N-word. Like exactly to talk about exactly as you've explained. Like, you explained it really well. and yeah, it's interesting because there's an age thing, you know. I mean, there is that thing coming up as I did in the 70s and stuff. It wasn't acceptable. There was never a time as a child in the 60s in Trinidad and the 70s where you could use that N-word and it had any positive. None
The
whatsoever.
Americanisms.
But as time went on, like you say, time moves and it did change. And I know that young people have a different
I
view.
feel the same as you. I don't agree with the N-word at all. But I do feel like as a creative, you do have all these different emotions, as I said earlier. And if you want to express yourself in that way, I don't begrudge it at all. But I don't agree with the N-word.
What about you, my brother? What's your views? We always have to have your can't leave you out, you know. Not at all.
A variation of views, as you said, like as an artist, the language is your paint and your colours, and you're going to use all different colours to paint different pictures. So, for example, where Rima said, where she was chatting about her N, he was robbing banks. He was doing niggerisms. So he wasn't, you know, turning around and emperoring
So
and
it's a kind of like a Chris Rock ends. Was he says
black fox and ends.
Yeah, and then the ends don't have any books in the house, that kind of thing. He's trying to show actually.
Because if you want to hide something from you put it in a book.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So there is context. At one point, at younger myself, and I was still politically aware, I turned around and I was rallying behind that. But I do grow up behind a lot of Americanisms. And the reason why is because we don't have a place called black. We've got a place called Africa, we've got a place called Caribbean. But one thing that you don't even have to be black, you could be tanned. You could be a tanned Italian from the south. Yeah, you could be an Asian. You could be and people turn around and say, "Oi!" So that was a unifying something. But then in the same breath, we have to have certain things which are ours, and I understand how my language affects other people. So just because I might have felt or feel a certain thing, doesn't mean it doesn't polarize people. So I'm very mindful of the language I use and who I'm talking to. In this day and age, someone said something the other day and they was referring to me generally, or they weren't talking about me, they was talking about people, but I was in the group, and they used the term, and I was a bit like, hey.
Hold on.
You mean niggas, yeah? But so it's a varying thing. I don't know. But
That's interesting because I had a brother on a couple of years ago, Jazari X, big shout out to him from Pittsburgh, a really, really amazing hip hop artist, educator. And he, obviously coming from Pittsburgh as an African American brother, he made his case why he uses the N-word, because we had a debate about it. And it was really different because, you know, hearing, for him, it was a reality on the streets of where he grew up in the Hill District, in, you know, which is a black African American area. So, Sis, you were going to say something?
can I just say that I do know better, you know? Even though that is like my one track that I thought, you know what, I'm going to be naughty and I'm going to use the word. My father's a Rastafarian, so I know my history. I know what it means. But in that song, when I was writing that story, that's how I felt to describe that situation, and that's how I felt to kind of put it across. But at the same time, I've got a young black son, and I'm not encouraging him to use that word. If I heard him, I'd knock him out. You know what I'm saying?
Old school money.
Exactly. So, like I said, as much as like I do like to experiment with certain things, and that song I was just like, I'm gonna be naughty and like you know, I'm gonna do something bad kind of thing. I understand and I get it.
Real quickly to build on that one, the root of the word is coming, as I mentioned, you said Paps is Rastafari, which I know, yeah? Is coming, one, from the Negus Nagas, is coming from Naga, the Nagas, the ancient dynasties of South, it's coming from Nagasaki, it's coming from Nzinga, it's coming from ninja. To be a ninja, you had to be a black blood ninja, have one drop of black blood. So the root of the word, Niger, the river, is coming out of all these words. There we go. Nagasaki, even Nagasaki in China and all these places, it's coming from a deep-rooted place. Just things get perverted along the way. And away from the N-word, back to what you were saying about bees and someone calling someone a bee, you have a lot of women that will turn around and say, I'm a bad bee. Like, do you know what I mean? And in the same context of, so for example, when I turn up, I don't really call people king and queen so much nowadays. What I would do is less kingly, because I'm aspiring for you to act in your nobility, because enough of us are kings without kingdoms. And we have to kind of dash away that, do you know what I mean? Yeah. But we have to have dominion over oneself. So I'm going to call on that. Or when I see my sisters, I say sis. Because even if we might not have blood, I'm calling on the family element, and it will remind you, even you may have had some bad experience with some brothers, or they might not be moving brotherly, but that's where I'm coming from. So it's about words is spells, and you have to be careful of how you cast and be mindful of what. And just like when you're seasoning, you might use some pepper sometime, because you need to burn out something. But then sometimes you might have a pinch of salt. So it's...
And also, it's interesting you said that, because a sister of mine, big shout out to sisters in Tottenham, who refuses to be called a queen. She says, I am a fisherwoman. I'm a farmer. Because you see, it's true, we all call each other kings and queens and empresses, which is something because I suppose our history, the way that we were denigrated,
took it away from
beating ourselves up. But you're right, when those of us who were stolen, kidnapped, trafficked from Africa, we were astronomers, we were midwives, we were doctors, we were physicians, we were, you know, all sorts of things, farmers.
The same conversation I had with my brethren from Texas, big up C101 conscientization, and he was basically saying the same thing. He burned a fire on the nobility. Yeah, he's in dealing with class struggle. So yeah, he's not into that at all. He's dealing with the grassroots on the ground, the working class, and as you said, the people at the bottom making it happen. I think where we're coming at this king thing is because the king has the highest responsibility of the community, and so he should turn around and receive that reward and whatever, but we get gassed up on the material bits and bobs that they have, the crown and the throne and the whatever, and we don't see the work that a king should be doing. Enough time we use to politicians and president and prime minister, and the man ain't doing nothing. They are the king of our nations, but they're not doing nothing.
I've seen a man greet an ex-man with the king, and I've looked at those men and thought,
King of the dung pile, yeah.
I actually wrote a song called Money, and people think it's just about, you know, about money, and it sort of touches on about kings, queens, and about the throne and different stuff, but it goes back into just basically what's, you know, like taking back what's ours. And at the end of the day, yeah, we was different types of people, and some of us was royal, and some of us was doctor, like you said, this and that, like
agriculture.
exactly different stuff.
Like to grow things.
So I don't believe to call everybody that, but at the same time, when somebody, you know, shows you like
kingship and queenship,
you can see someone walks with, there's a certain way about them that you just
Queenly
feel,
character.
and you feel it.
Christ
You
and
feel
his
it.
kingly character. Can I just add something to that as well? I understand what you're saying about the whole, obviously, the Fisher wife and etc. etc. But I think for me, as I am raising a young black boy in a system that's not necessarily made for us, when he's at school, the majority of stuff that he's learning about is that we were slaves, we were slaves, we were slaves, we were slaves. So I do have to let him know, no, that is not. That might have been a part of our journey, but
That's a
that is
small
not
chapter.
who we
We're
are.
not.
That is not who we are, and so I do make him know that you came from kings, you came from queens, just so he can build up his own understanding as he gets along. Because obviously they're not trying to teach them, they're only teaching them the things that are in public view. They're only teaching them about, like, you know, the slave trade and things like that. So it's like even something, sorry, just to divert for 2 seconds and then stop me. When my son started, he changed primary schools because we were having issues with the first primary school, and then we put him into another primary school, but this happened during lockdown. The homework that they gave him was about a little African boy who put himself into a box and got mailed to another area. Now, you've got a bunch of people on lockdown. There's no teacher teaching them what A is A and B is B, but you're expecting non-black parents as well as black parents to educate their child on this little African boy who put himself in a box and during slavery times and moved himself. Listen, the way that I kicked up sync with that school, they know who I am, because it just wasn't something. I just thought, because I'm in a majority Asian area, and I just think we need to show that we are more than what they think we are.
Well, that's the whole point. We're not slaves.
Yeah,
are
but
we?
that's what they're
And
teaching them.
They wanted us to be, but we're not.
That's what they're teaching
when,
them.
when you say king or you say queen, what do you think about when you say king or queen? That's like the highest of high, isn't it?
How's the society?
I personally call all my brothers and sisters kings and queens because it's a confident thing.
Empresses.
Yeah, for me. So you're a queen, you're a queen, you're a king to me. So I will say it because I want you to be on that level of high, if that makes sense.
See, I say it as well, but like I said, to certain people, but mostly I say it quite a bit because.
Why should you not see yourself?
Yeah,
up there?
well,
you know,
as far as I'm concerned, like our family comes from that. So do you know what I mean?
So you're a queen.
Yeah.
And you're a king.
One thing that we have to do though is hold people accountable to these things. So you see, from I'm putting you up there.
Yeah.
You better act like
You better represent it.
Hey, I saw that, you know. Hey.
But that's the whole point. Yeah. If you got you put someone somewhere, then you got to live up to it.
And so, moving on now to another track from Rena Echo. I've got your tracks that you sent me, so they're all here lined up. Which one would you like?
Alright, see, everyone's been keeping it fast, and I do feel like keeping it fast, but you know, because
Balance.
I've been talking about my boy, and I want to slow it down a little bit. Oh, sorry, you see me in this microphone, I should know better because I used to do radio. Yeah, we had the fasting, and I was thinking, oh, I'll drop Frustrated, but yeah, that's the exclusive, you lot can wait for that one. There is a song that I wrote, kind of for my son, like it's based around him, and it was kind of about having someone that loves you even when you don't love yourself. Like, there's days where I feel like, oh my God, I'm such a rubbish mum, and he'll just turn around and say, no mum, you're doing the best that you can, and I see that, and I love you, and that's my child at 12.
No such thing as a good parent, only a good enough parent.
Yes, and I'm doing my best, and that is all I can do. So I wrote a song called Seeing Me. It's a bit of a slow jam. As I said, people, I'm an R&B girl, and I hope you enjoy it.
Let's go. Keeping it slow.